There's so many applications that are already downloaded on your phone that you can use. You don't have to go and spend a bunch of money on these educational apps.
My team was comprised of myself, Brenda Bushhouse, Judith Danovich, Ariel Ziegelman, and Tammy Kwan. And it took us a while to kind of figure out what we wanted to focus on, but eventually we coalesced around the idea of a lot of the educational apps that are available are not that high quality. They don't actually promote engaged and meaningful learning experiences.
So we know that children are using screens quite often. We've all seen parents hand off their phone to their child, while they're waiting in an office somewhere, or children, have their own iPad sometimes.
Research shows that young children are spending 2.5 hours a day on screens. And this is a problem depending on what it is they're doing with those screens. Are they learning anything? And so that we found in the research that the quality of games geared for preschool age are pitifully poor.
And yet, parents have, with them almost all the time, this potentially very powerful device. Once we started looking at what are almost like standard features on any smartphone, we realized how many of them really lent themselves to learning experiences. And each of us, we're all parents, and I think each of us had already had experience with using some of these features on a phone in creative ways with our kids.
I don't think we would have arrived where we arrived if it wasn't for Tammy. Tammy's a new mom, and as a new mom, raising a child in this digital age, she was really able to say hey, sometimes I just have to hand my kid my phone because it solves a lot of problems. And yeah, there's guilt associated with that, but if I knew things that I could bring to the table, hey, let's look at a picture of when we were on our last vacation and let's talk about this. Those are a lot of healthy screen time interactions that we hope to bring to this new generation of parents.
We know from the science of learning that children learn best when they engage in socially interactive activities. We are developing a list of ideas for parents using the apps that are already built into their phones. And so, for example, looking at how can you use the stopwatch app in a way that would be productive. Say you're sitting somewhere, you could talk to your child about, how many seconds are in a minute, how many minutes are in an hour.
Also had a lot of fun thinking about the maps feature and how parents and kids could use that to find a place that's meaningful to parent or child.
Or maybe you say, where's grandma's house? And you put in grandma's house and how far is it to grandma's house? And how might we get there if we walked, if we drove, if we used public transportation? So you're asking them to think about distance, to think about time.
Or even crazy things okay, which way do you think we're facing? Open the compass app and oh, this is north and the sun is over here because it's this time of day. There's just so much you can do with your phone. And the idea is that we have prompts for parents or caregivers. There doesn't have to be your parent, an adult figure that they can kind of follow through to kind of start some conversations and start activities.
The next step was how do we get this message out to parents? And so we consulted some experts on social media, and we gave a lot of thought to where do parents go? Where do they get information about learning? And we eventually came up with the idea of creating or having a graphic designer create for us an infographic, a very simple, visually powerful representation of our idea.
The hope is that we're able to get enough traction from TikTok and from the pamphlet that, it is something that we're able to change in everyday life.
I think technology has a lot of potential for children's learning, and that if we could capture it, we could really see some benefits for young kids.